Welcome, readers. Today on Book Chat, we are sharing our stories of what started our love of reading, our reading habits, and more. Stay tuned. Today's episode is sponsored in part by audiobooks.com. Audiobooks.com now has 175,000 titles and 1.2 million podcasts. New customers get 3 free audiobooks comprised of 1 premium credit and 2 VIP titles. Use our promo code Shelf Addiction, spelled as one word, when you sign up at audiobooks.com. Again, our promo code is Shelf Addiction. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and welcome to Book Chat here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. Participate in this discussion by joining the Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official. I hope to hear your thoughts on today's topic. You can always find me and Casey on Twitter and Instagram. The links for everything I've mentioned are below in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support this podcast by sharing it with some book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. That would really help me out, and I appreciate you for doing so. The uncut video version of this podcast is available now on Patreon. Join us there for exclusive videos, including after shows and more. So if you're interested in that at all, you'll need to come on over to Patreon and sign up. Without further ado, let's get started. So we've got a lot to talk about today, so we're going to jump right on into it. Joining me is feature co-host Casey from Heart Full of Ink. Welcome back, Casey.
Hi. So happy to be here again, like always.
Yes, it's always a good time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so today we are going to talk about kind of like growing up bookish, like what we liked when we were kids, teens, young adults, now. And we're going to talk about like maybe how our reading habits have changed over that time. And, you know, we're just going to talk all things bookish, really, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And we have, of course, some recommendations as always, and we'll just share those throughout the podcast. There's not going to be a separate section for those. So just, you know, enjoy. And also, please feel free to reach out to us and let us know, you know, what you liked, you know, when you were a kid or a teen or now, you know. I'm always open to recommendations, that's for sure.
Oh, always. Always.
Yes. Okay, so let's just kick this thing off with like how we fell in love with reading. I think that would be the most ideal place to start.
Yes. Yes. So mine is absolutely 100% because of my mother. She started reading to me when I was still in the womb, I guess. Like, I have an older sister she was reading to. And so it was always books, always being read to. We would go to the library. The first quote unquote adult book she ever read to me was The Hobbit. And I wasn't even 2 years old before she read that to me. And I told her it was my favorite book ever. So
Oh, wow.
I've been a bookish person my entire life. And I blame my mother, like in the best possible way.
Yeah. That's funny. It's kind of similar for me, but different. Like my mom, she's a retired teacher, but she was an elementary school teacher. So first and second grade mostly. So my earliest years, I just remember, like, we used to live in Missouri back when I was really, really young. And it's a very hilly area where I lived. And I just remember we pack up in the car, we go up and down these hills because we'd act like it was a roller coaster.
Woo!
I'm like, in first and second grade, I remember doing this. We'd go to the library and we'd spend hours in the library.
Hours and hours.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it wasn't a situation where my mom had to force me to go get books. It was just natural for me. And I'd bring back crap ton of books.
Oh, yes.
Read them all. And honestly, I really remember loving how the library smelled randomly.
Oh, yeah. The library smell is the most amazing smell in the world.
Isn't it, though? And
It
I
is.
just remember every like weekend we would do, you know, rinse, wash, repeat kind of thing. And just tons and tons of books. So real young, I remember picking my own books, choosing, you know, what I wanted to read. Like, she never even really said, you can only pick from here. She kind of gave me free reign. And boy, did I do that. And going through, even getting older and older, oh man, I don't think my mom would like if she found out some of the stuff I was reading. when I was reading it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've been addicted to reading as far back as that. Those are my earliest memories of just like, me, myself picking up books and just wanting to read all the things.
Oh, yeah. It was always, we would go to the library. Every once in a while, we would go to Borders because we were like having a special day and we could buy one book. But then I'd want to go to the library and get like 20 books. Be like, the library is better than Borders because I get more books.
Yeah. I would agree, but even though you have to return them, but
yes, but you get more and you can read them all.
More. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, books have been life for pretty much ever.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why it's so fun to me. It's like easy. It's like, some people, unfortunately, I do feel like it's sad when I hear people say they have to try to read a book or they have to set aside time on purpose to read a book. It's like, I can't understand. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know some people, they didn't read as kids because their parents were busy working and, life gets in the way. And so it wasn't until they were in high school or college or adults that they really started reading and reading for fun and realizing that, oh my God, there's all these books and all these genres out here. Where in school, you're forced to read all the crappy old historical books.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I get that, but it really makes me sad that people don't know how good books are and how good they can be and how just much variety is out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a specific book, you could probably find it somewhere.
Oh, for sure. Mm-hmm. Like I know when I was in college, though, there was about a span of, 3 years where I really didn't read for fun when I was in college. But that was just because I was reading everything else. But the minute I was within reach of graduation, I was like, I need to go to Borders and buy books because I need to read something.
You need to read for fun.
Yes, and it's a different experience, which is also like, I do understand when people say they only read nonfiction, but it also saddens me too, because I'm like, there's so, like the exploration, the excitement, the adventures that you can have if you read fiction as well.
And the empathy it builds is so vital to humanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. So I don't know. I know no one listening to this podcast reads nonfiction only because we do all fiction over here. I haven't put a nonfiction shelf bite up all year. I don't think I was really doing good last year. I did like one a month, but I don't know this year.
I just saw on my Facebook memories that you shared the Unfuck Yourself.
Yeah.
And I shared it for you. And I was like, oh yeah, I should listen to that again.
It's a good book, but I think it's just nonfiction, like self-helpy kind of books, kind of even business books. They kind of come and go in spurts for me. So, sometimes I'm really into it and I'm like, I love these memoirs and these other things. And then other times I'm like, nah.
It also depends on my business. Like before I started Heart Full of Ink, I was like, I'll never read a nonfiction business book. Why the hell would I want to do that? And then I started my own business and was like, oh, I should go read these books and figure out what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
And at ebbs and flows, some days I'm like, yes, I need to be like on top of my business. I need to know what I'm doing. Other days I'm like, fuck it. I'll just make it up as I go along.
Yeah, sometimes those kind of books can be also really motivational and really, push you into maybe something you need to be doing or stop doing or just for growth too. So definitely don't sleep on nonfiction. But I think for me, nonfiction, like you said, it it comes and goes, ebbs and flows. Yeah. But fiction is like my bread and butter.
Fiction is forever. Yeah.
Yeah. I just, I can never. I'd be so sad if I could not read fiction anymore.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
So I guess let's talk about some fiction books. Like when I was a kid, I really remember loving Anne of Green Gables. I remember reading that so young, and I have the funniest story. So like when I was
Okay.
like, I don't know, maybe I was like 10 or 11 or something. I had got, I saved my money up and I had got like the whole set. So I had all the books. And, I've always been a series girl from a young age. Series. So anyway, I had these books and, even though at a certain point, you don't read them anymore. But I had them. And then one time, I can't remember, I must have went on a vacation or something. I went away for the summer or something, came back, and one of my books was gone. I grilled my two younger sisters, like, where is this book? Because, if you come in my room and take a book, I'm going to know.
Yeah.
And one of my sisters ended up admitting to borrowing the book. And she lost it. She lost it. I was so pissed. I was so mad for a long time, to the point where even as a damn adult, okay,
yes,
it never leaves me. And I actually went on eBay searching for this exact version to replace it, and I found it. I spent like $23 on this paperback little book. But I found the right one. I was so happy when I found that. And I, of course, told my sister, I got that book. And you never, I still went off.
Yes.
It's like 20 years later, I still remember.
Yes. This is how you fight with siblings. This is very...
Yeah. And then she took another book. I was older though. I think I was like in high school, because it was when I was starting to read street lit and stuff. She took another one of a duology and lost it. Oh man, I could just pound her. I don't understand.
No. Sisters are the worst when they steal your books.
I know, right? Like, how dare you? See, I'm traumatized still today. Anyway, so what did you love when you were pint size?
So I guess around kindergarten age, I became obsessed with Ramona Quimby series by Beverly Cleary.
Yeah.
And I would go around saying, I want to be Ramona when I grow up, even though she was like 5 at the same time. Like, we were the same age. Yeah. Like, I want to be her when I grow up. She's amazing. And I still, to this day, and I think it was the first Ramona book, she got those bright red, shiny rain boots. I have always wanted bright red, shiny rain boots. I have never had them in my life. I still want them. Like when I go to the store, pre-COVID time, I would always look at the rain boots. And I'm like, there's no like bright, shiny, cherry red rain boots in an adult size. So I'm on the hunt for those books 20 plus years, or those boots 20 years later.
Oh my gosh.
I loved Ramona. She was fun. She was amazing. Those are like the very age appropriate books that I was reading that I loved. Like I said, my mom was really into fantasy books because she was a nerd. She still is a nerd. So she, at the same time that she was reading Beverly Cleary to me, she was also reading Ursula K. Le Guin and Lloyd Alexander and all these other like Tolkien and stuff. So I love Lloyd Alexander and in his books, and Ursula K. Le Guin, The Earthsea. I read those a little bit later. Like I wasn't 5, but those Beverly Cleary was my child appropriate books, and then like Lloyd Alexander was my adult fantasy. I was like, this is amazing.
That is so awesome.
So by the time I was 9, I think I was 9 in 3rd grade, Disney came out with The Black Cauldron. And that's the second book in the series. And they just like absolutely butchered it horrifically in every way possible. Yeah. And so my bitchy 9-year-old ass would walk into the bookstore and be like, this sucks! This is book 2! We need to rearrange the shelves because the book of 3 is book 1. And like anytime anybody wanted to watch, I'd be like, no, everything about this movie is wrong. And I'd sit there and list all the ways it was wrong.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, that's just like who I am as a person, but I've like really reined that in.
Have you though? I don't know.
No. I won't walk into a bookstore and yell about it out loud, but I will on the podcast.
Yes, you will.
I will on the podcast, but I won't do it in the bookstore. So I've reined in like.
So you saved some people from having to,
having to deal with me. Yes.
Yeah.
So I've been this way my entire fucking life.
Oh, yeah. That's so funny. Oh, I love it. That's awesome. I don't think I'd be that bold to walk into a bookstore and just start going off on a rant, but
Oh, I went off on some poor bookstore workers. Every once in a while I'll think about that and just get like really embarrassed and be like, oh, fuck. What kind of 9-year-old was I? Like,
an opinionated one who reads books, and that's a good one. Yeah.
Oh my God. Those poor workers. They just like smiled and placated me and probably went searching for my mother. Like,
okay, little girl, where's your parent?
Yeah, let's get you out of the store.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. What I would have loved to see that.
I
little
mean,
Casey on the rampage.
Recreating it, but it was something else. I was a little monster when it came to books and details. And I mean, okay, so one of my favorite characters is the Bard. If you know anything about this series, his name is the Bard. And in the books, he's kind of a youngish guy. Like he's in his 20s or 30s, I think. Like he's youngish. In the movie, he's like this 80-year-old crippled man who's hobbling around with a freaking cane.
Oh.
And I was like, what the fuck is this? Except I was nice. I wasn't saying fuck. It's like, you ruined everything.
Well, you know what? That's a big thing to change. Like,
yeah. And no, he was one of my favorite characters. So,
well, that's why it was your favorite, one of your favorites, and you're like, who the hell is that? Like, what is that?
What the fuck did you do, Disney? Like,
yeah.
Oh,
I don't know. Leave it to the movie people to mess up a book. I mean, and they will mess it up.
Like to the extreme. Like, I could go on for an hour, and I haven't read these books in over a decade, haven't watched the movie, and I could still rant about this for an hour.
Oh, that's so funny.
I'll stop.
Oh my gosh. So let's see. What else did I like reading? I feel like my kid years, like my age under 10, I feel like I read so much. I don't remember like a favorite like that and it's kind of how it is now for me. Like it's hard for me. If someone said, what is your absolute favorite book or series? I can't really answer that. It's a hard question because just like then, I read so much. I just remember picking up a bunch of things that I liked, and I've always, and I do it now. So like, it's hard to explain, but I don't have a favorite. I remember like clumps of things that affected me, like to the point where I remember them now. But if you were to ask me a bunch of books that I read when I was under 10, I'd be like, I don't know. Stuff. I read stuff. Okay. Let me go look at my, library history. I don't know. If only Goodreads existed back then, that would really help me out.
Yes.
But like I feel like my preteen and teen years, I was really reading things that were more memorable to me because they were things I probably shouldn't have been reading. Like my cousin is 10 years older than me. So when I was 12 and 13, she's 22 and 23. And I used to raid her library at home. And I was reading things like Anne Rice. I was reading things like Fern Michaels. I was reading like full-on romance, sex scenes, vampires. I was reading that stuff in my early teens. And I probably missed, as a young teen, you probably missed some things because you're not experienced yet.
Yep.
But you definitely get some things, right?
Yep.
And on my own, I just remember, like, really remember those V.C. Andrew books. Oh my God. And to me, it seemed like nothing was wrong with the incest going on in those books when I was reading them back then.
Yep.
But now I'm like, I probably should have been reading, I don't know, Goosebumps or some shit. I don't know. R.L. Stine or something. That's probably what I should have been reading, but I wasn't.
Oh my God. So I started reading romance books when I was 9. We were at my grandma's house, and I told my mom I'm bored, like a 9-year-old kid does, because you're at grandma's house and there's nothing to do. And so my mom said, your grandma has a lot of books. Go find a book on her bookshelf and read it.
Okay.
And so I went to the bookshelf, and I found a book with a not quite naked man on the cover, but like, he's shirtless. And I'm like, okay, I'm 9. Let's start reading this. And their character's like almost having sex on page 1. Yeah. Like, this man is about to go down on this woman. He's like undressing her and kissing his way up her thighs. And I'm just like,
what? What's happening? Excuse me?
Like, okay, I'm not bored anymore. I want to keep reading.
Are you looking behind your shoulders, making sure no one's there?
Nobody can see me. So obviously, like, I knew I wasn't allowed to read it, and nobody would let me read it. So I would sneak some of Grandma's books home. And then this is another very embarrassing story. I would share a bedroom with my sister, my little sister. She's 4 years younger than me. And I had an early bedtime with her, and I didn't want to go to sleep. So I would go to bed with her, wait a few minutes until she was asleep, and then I'd go into the closet. Like, we had a walk-in closet, and I would go into the closet, turn on the light, and start reading my romance novels.
Oh, wow.
9 years old.
Oh, my
I was literally reading in the closet.
That seems so quintessentially you. Like, that if you're funny. Like, I can totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't need to go to bed now. I just want to read. And nobody needs to know I'm reading these books, so let's read in the closet.
That's what you're supposed to do, girl. That's how we read what we want to read, and not what we're supposed to read. Like, literally, oh my gosh. I had so much fun reading this crap when I was a kid. It was so great. And I read so many romances too. Like, I think everyone would be shocked to know, like, my cousin was really into historical romance. And
so was my grandma.
Yeah. So I was reading that, even though I don't really read it now. It's not my forte, but hey, that was what was available to me. And I sure as hell couldn't go to the adult section and check it out at the library, but I can take it off her shelf and read it.
Yep.
And that's what I was doing.
Oh, yeah. I stuck with historical romance for like 5 years because I couldn't go anywhere else to find stuff. Like, I couldn't go check it out from the library because my mom was right there. And I couldn't, go to the bookstore and buy it because my mom was right there taking me because, I'm 12 years old. I can't go to the bookstore alone. So, yeah, it was all historical for years and years. And I think I was 15 before I discovered paranormal romance. And then that just like burst the door wide open because I was like, oh my God, the fantasy stuff that I like and the romance stuff that I like combined. Hallelujah.
It's crazy. I didn't really find I didn't really consider Anne Rice that. And I read several of her books, but I didn't really find like paranormal romance or even urban fantasy until I was like in my early 20s. So like there was this time of like where I was reading a lot of what I like to call like street lit. So it was like Black authors writing about things that were interesting to me and drama filled to me because I didn't live in that world. But pimps and hoes, thugs, all that stuff. So I was reading tons of that crap in my late teens and early 20s. But after a while, I'm like, it all kind of seems the same. So I went on like, I guess, a treasure hunt, I guess I would say. And one day perusing, and I remember this day succinctly, I was just walking around Borders. There's this 2-story Borders close to me that's, been long closed, but it was my favorite one. And I was just perusing, la, 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 la. And I think they still separate it now, but in the Black section, the African-American section, which is where my home base was, I found books that had a woman with a sword on the front. I'm like, what is this? Because there aren't a lot of African-American authors writing urban fantasy and stuff.
Yeah.
There weren't back then.
Yeah.
I picked it up. It was Vampire Huntress Legend by L.A. Banks. I'm like, what is this? So it was Minion was book 1. I'm like, what is this? So I took a seat and I read about 50 pages and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get it. And I was addicted after that. I was addicted. I was like, oh my God. And her books were multicultural. So you saw all kind of people in there. And I remember just flying through like the first 8 books or something before I caught up to when she was real time.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I fell in love. And after that, I kind of crossed over, let's just say, because I could not find a lot of African-American authors writing that type of thing. I did delve into horror at that time because I found some Black horror authors. So I really was into that. But after that, I just jumped. I went to the fantasy section and I just started consuming any and everything that looked good to me. So that was the beginning of that. And it never stopped. I mean, I still love, that's one of my favorite genres now.
Oh, yeah.
Even though when it's too cheesy, I got to talk shit about it.
We always got to talk shit about stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We do. But yeah, no, I remember finding Minion at my library and reading it. And I know I enjoyed it, but I don't think my library had many of the series, which is why I stopped and just, never went back to it. But I remember liking it. Mm-hmm. Also, I was
still
15,
like it.
Like, oh my God, sex and swords, and let's keep going.
I still like it. So like earlier this summer, I wanted to just feel happy. I was so, so, I bought, I have all those books on my shelf and they were a little dusty because I hadn't read them in, forever. But I reread Minion and I was like, wow, this is still good to me. I still like it. I kept waiting for Denali and her man to hook up. And I'm like, oh my God, Carlos and Denali, I love them. But they didn't hook up in the first book. I was like, damn, I forgot it wasn't the first book. So now I'm like, well, maybe the second book.
Keep reading. Gotta figure it out.
Yeah, so I still like that. I'm like, and it shocks me. I thought for sure I'd be like, ugh, I don't like it now. But I enjoyed it. I was like, had a good time with it. So I love when that happens. It happens so infrequently now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
As you guys probably know, if you listen to the 3 Bloggers 1 series, that recently happened to Casey and I both.
Both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was a rough one.
Yeah. Yeah. So when something does hold up and I still like it, I'm like, hallelujah. Woo, let's do a happy dance. Yes. So anywho, yeah. Oh, I love that stuff. Did you ever read like a lot of like any Black authors when you were a kid? Did you read that at all?
So I would find them in like contemporary YA settings in my high school library, and I would read them that way.
Yeah.
But it was really hard to find them in like the adult romance and paranormal romance at my library.
Yeah.
Like I found Minion, but I lived in a very white ass town. We didn't even have like an African American section in our library. Everything was mixed together.
Oh, okay.
Which was good, I guess.
As long as you have some stuff in there.
As long as you have some stuff, but it was all just fiction. Like, we didn't even separate genres.
The genres? That's shameful.
It's just a giant row of fiction. So you have to wander through the shelves and like look at a cover and say, is this horror or paranormal? Is this like what am I reading? What is this?
Oh my gosh.
But, Yeah, no, there was this one really cute YA contemporary that was about Black characters. And I remember, like, I just picked it up to read it because the cover looked cute. And my friends were all white at school because it was an all-white school. We're like, Casey, why are you reading that? And I'm like, why would I not read this? Like, this is a book. I'm going to read a book. And they're just like,
that's sad. I mean, because, like, not being funny, it wasn't even like it was the 80s when you were a kid. Mm-mm. So, like, just because it's Black characters, it's not for you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It was not a very welcoming school.
That's so sad. Oh.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I got made fun of for reading a lot and also teased about being quote unquote other by elementary school kids. They would call me Pocahontas or ask me if I was the dot or feather kind of Indian.
Oh, damn. Really? Like, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's messed up.
Oh, yeah. No, there were a lot of racist kids who I went to school with from elementary through high school.
Yeah.
So,
well, kids learn that stuff from their parents.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, they do.
Because, like, I can understand that. Like, when I lived in Missouri, you know, like I said, I was there from, like, I remember distinctly being there for first and second grade. Moving from the Metro Detroit area, I went to kindergarten in Detroit, moved to Missouri, and then came back to Michigan in the burbs. But in Missouri, there were no other Black people in my damn class at all. And people love to point that out. So I dealt with that for 2 years, and I remember it distinctly.
Yep.
Yeah. And when I came back, when I came back, you know, I was in the third grade and I started in the suburbs, like I said, and it was a mixed school. So there were all kind of people in the school, which I liked, you know, thinking back. But I remember the Black kids would say to me, why do you sound white? Why do you talk white?
Oh, God.
I'd be like, what? What the fuck are you talking about? But I wouldn't say that exactly because I did not curse back then. But
yeah.
So you can't win for losing around this mug. You can't win.
You can't. No. I do want to give a shout out to my third grade teacher, who she was white, but I distinctly remember one of the books. You know, when teachers are in third grade, you read out a chapter from a chapter book every week or every day or whatever. Like, you read a book out loud to your students.
Yeah.
And one of the books she read to us was about a little girl in third grade living in Zimbabwe. And she wanted to become a track runner and like win the school race or whatever. And that is the only book I like distinctly remember any teacher in elementary school reading out loud that had a Black main character, like specifically Black, living in Africa and just living her life. Like, there was nothing tragic about it. There was nothing awful. It was just a girl like us, but she lived in Zimbabwe and she wanted to run. And that's all the book was about. And it was like, that's the only book I like remember having a Black main character throughout elementary school.
See, and I love that it wasn't like something dramatic. You know what I mean?
It was just regular. It wasn't traumatic. It was
regular kid problems. Like yeah.
That's all it was. And that I think that's the only book I read or teacher read out loud to me in elementary school where the character was not white.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I give props to that teacher too. So I went to, you know, my school was mixed and I don't remember any Black authors or Black characters in books that we read, like in school. So, but in high school, we read plenty of sad and sorry things that are depressing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, God, why do I have to read this? And those are classics, things that people say are just phenomenal books. And I'm sure they are, but just not for me when I was 14 and 15 years old trying to read that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't want that. all the time. You want to see normal stories of normal people living normal lives. And it just, people living in Zimbabwe, they just want to run.
Yeah. Actually, which is why I do like, some of these newer contemporary YA authors like Nicola Yoon. She writes about all kinds of people, like all colors of people. But guess what? They have like these normal stories. They're not always like these overwhelming, social justice type books. Sometimes they're just, I like this boy kind of thing. And sometimes that's needed. You know what I mean? Not everything has to weigh 1,000 pounds, but sometimes it does. And sometimes it
does. And sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. So it's nice to have that variety. And that's something that we didn't have when I was growing up. There were no YA contemporary authors writing about romance in the Black community or a mixed community that I can recall that weren't laden with, hood shit. Like literally, like it's everything is a struggle kind of thing. I don't remember reading anything like that back when I was young, and I wish it was around. I really do.
I'm glad there's more now. It was a struggle to find it even 20 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's take a quick break, y'all. We're going to take a break. We're going to check out our sponsors. Definitely, you guys click around in our sponsored offers. Pick some stuff up if you like. Supporting our sponsor supports this show. So we'll be right back. Stay with us. Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the Bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite Bookish item. Welcome back, guys. We are going to finish out our discussion. We are feeling good. We had a great break, and we're back to finish out this chat. Unfortunately, this time we didn't have any readers react. I know you guys usually have a few comments for us, but nothing this time, which is sad because I was.
Come on, guys, talk to us.
Yeah, we want some for next time. So, we basically covered how reading has been, I guess, to us over the years. And I guess we can talk about how our habits have changed. That would be fun, I think, to talk about. Because now, like I just said before the break, like some stuff I still do, like how I kind of just read any and everything. When I was a kid, I still do that now. I read like a variety of genres now, although I do have a couple favorites, but I still read across the gambit. How about you? Do you have anything that stuck or changed, Casey?
Well, obviously, I don't read in the closet anymore.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good.
I've come out of the closet. So,
okay. Winning.
I read basically the same in the sense that I'm still reading a wide variety from fantasy to romance. I still do historical. I love paranormal. Every once in a while, I still, as an adult, will pick up like a middle grade book just to, be 11 again and read an adventure story. And I have 7 library cards that I constantly check out ebooks from. So
woohoo, that's so awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how to get 7 library cards. How does that work?
I moved around a lot.
Oh.
Let me show you.
Oh, wow.
All my library cards.
But don't they expire? How does that work? How do you keep them?
So the Denver Public Library expires in 2099. And I would love to be alive and like walk into the library and renew that card. For the most part, if they expire, that just means you can't go in and check out physical books, but you can still go on Overdrive and check out books that way.
Oh, wow.
And I have several from Colorado because I moved around Denver into different areas. And every time I was in a different district, I'd be like, hey, time for a new library card. I still have my original childhood library card
Oh.
from, back in the day when I was reading in the closet. I move around a lot. And every time I'm in a new area, the first thing I do is go get a library card.
Oh, that's so cool. Our libraries here are such sticklers in Michigan. They make you renew like every other year. You have to go in and show your ID.
Oh, that's so weird.
And they're sticking the muds. I'm like, what do you think we're going to do with these library books? Like, I mean, is it that serious? Like, oh my gosh. But that's cool though. I like it.
Yeah,
I know a couple other people that seem like they collect library cards.
I collect them. It is the best. It's fun.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much, I love fantasy. I still read historical romance. I love paranormal romance. I read for work, obviously. I read for pleasure. I read constantly.
Yeah.
So.
I think right now, like, if I had to say what my favorite genres were right now, and you guys, it's shown, it's reflected on the podcast. It is like urban fantasy, paranormal romance, but definitely not the cheesy kind, as I said. And so fantasy, basically, I'm down with that. And I love a good thriller title. I don't know why. Because I love so much true crime and stuff. I'm like, let me read a good murder. I kind of like it.
Makes sense.
I don't know why. It's not that, I don't know. I just enjoy it. But let's see. I think those are pretty much the only two things that I really still just really love right now. But everything else I do read. Like I've read a couple of horror books in the last couple of weeks. I have some contemporary fiction on my to-read list. So I still dabble. And I know I have a historical book coming up for book club, which I'm not ultra excited about, but I will read it anyway.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So I still jump around and I'll try almost anything. So as long as it doesn't look bad, with a horrible cover and a horrible description, I'll try it. That's not to say I'll finish it, but I will try it. Yeah, I just love reading. I love all the things. And as an adult, I just like reading what I like. I like what I like. I know what I don't like. Yep. And I will, as we've said in other episodes, I will stop reading nowadays. I used to force myself to read. That's a difference. I used to force myself to finish. Now I'm like,
As a kid, I would finish because I would feel like I had to. Because I felt like I had to, see it through to the end. And there were a couple, like I distinctly remember at least one book, possibly a couple others, where I hated the book all the way up until like the last 20 pages. And then something would happen and I'd be like, okay, this is good. Now I'm like, I don't care if it changes in the last 20 pages. I'm done.
That's
I'm moving
too
to
long.
Something else.
Like if the book is 300 pages or 350 pages and only the last 20 are good, that is just not good enough.
Yeah. No. So I don't force myself to finish anymore. I read what I want to read when I want to read it. Unless I have to read it for a book club or podcast. And then I'm like, all right, I have to read this right now. So I'm going to read this now. I won't keep putting it off.
And that's what I do too. For book club, I mean, unless it's just something that I am absolutely anti about, I will finish it. And for the podcast, I finish it because I know I will be able to talk shit if I want to. So, so that should, it's a good time. Don't you guys love it? We talk shit on here all the time. But, we also praise too, if it's good.
Oh, yeah.
Although I'm not really, that's one thing that I've never been, and I don't think I'll ever be, is a fangirl type reader. Like, even though, like, for example, we really adore the Mercy Thompson books. We always have a good time with it. I've never been like, oh my God, that's Patricia Briggs. I don't know. For some reason, I've never been that way. Maybe a little bit in my early 20s, I think I might have had that like inkling to be fangirly, but that was quickly smashed down when I met a couple of authors. And I was like, ugh, that quickly died. So, so the fangirl part of things never took root, really. I don't know.
I can fangirl hardcore and just like be a crazy fangirl, I guess. That has died down a bit over the last few years. I was very crazy in my early 20s. It depends on the author and the book, and I would love to meet Patricia Briggs. She is on my list of authors who I want to meet. But I don't think I'd run around screaming the way I did when I was 20. I've mellowed slightly in my old age.
You know, I'm like, I would love to have a conversation with her. Like, seriously, if someone that knows her, that is cool with her, tell her Tamara wants to talk with her on the podcast. I would love to have her
please.
on. I would love to have a conversation. Because, I mean,
I'll just sit here and watch.
Look, there are so many things that we could talk about that series. I just love it. So I would love to have a conversation, not just meet her, but have a conversation.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
See somebody.
And I wouldn't even fangirl. See, tell her I wouldn't even do it.
I might a little bit, but like off camera.
Off camera fangirl. Which is okay. That's allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What else has changed? I feel like it's crazy how much I'm the same, yet a little different. I don't know. Maybe that's just how we are. That's just how things roll.
I mean, have things changed for any of you out here drastically over the years? Maybe you weren't a reader before and now you are, or maybe you're a bigger reader and now you barely read, or talk to us. We want to hear you. Talk to us.
Yeah. And I feel like 2020, though, has been an exception to the rule. This has been, even though I'm really close to my Goodreads goal, I haven't had any real, true, bona fide enjoyment, you know what I mean, out of reading. Not like, you know, getting super excited and like just really falling in love with the world or something. That hasn't really happened for me this year with something new.
I've had a couple that I really enjoyed this year, but my reading is way, way down. I typically read about 200 books for fun, and right now I'm only at 100. Like it's been cut in half because 2020.
Yeah. 2020. When is it over? It's almost over. We got a month.
It's almost over.
6 weeks.
Got some good news.
7 weeks. Yeah. It's almost over. We can see the finish line.
It's almost over.
We can see the finish line. And actually, you know, that's something else I need to do, kind of off topic, but on topic, is I need to start looking at books for next year. Like usually this time of year, you start hearing a lot of hype about books for next year. And either I'm not looking at the right sources, or the people that I know that used to really promote that stuff aren't anymore, because I haven't seen like 2021 list yet.
I really haven't either. I think we all might be collectively just like holding our breath around November and waiting to see Fallout, which is good news. Good news. And then we can start talking about 2021.
I bet people who are published this year are just so mad. Like,
probably.
Like, come on, I didn't get all the promo I was supposed to get. People aren't buying books like that. People aren't reading like that. This was a sucky year to get published.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So that is something I'll be doing soon, is looking at next year, hoping for a fresh page to turn, and my reading excitement will come back, and all the good things will happen in 2021.
Yes.
Let's hope. I don't know. Do we have any other topics? I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Well, I guess we're done then. I'm like, wow.
All right.
That was easy peasy. I love talking about like the good old days and books.
Oh, yeah.
It's fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you guys, don't forget to follow us on social media. Please think about joining Shelf Addiction Official so you can participate in some of these read-alongs. You can also see when we post these Readers React call to action, so you can participate and maybe you can hear your comment here on an upcoming episode. We would love that.
Yes.
Okay, guys, so that is it. We will see you guys in another episode. And until then, take care of yourselves.
Bye, everybody.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review, or like this episode on your favorite podcast player. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. You can share this podcast with other book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. You can also join the Shelf Addiction Patreon family. For as little as $2 a month, you will help us produce even more awesome content for your ears. You can also consider joining the Shelf Addiction Official Facebook group, where we talk all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction Podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven Network. You can also reach us via email at info@shelfaddiction.com. Thank you for listening.